Let's get more on this story, and speaking right now to Ekurhuleni ActionSA caucus leader Siyanda Makhado for more on this. Siyanda, a pleasure to have you on the program despite the circumstances. Firstly, give us updates on what you have learned on the situation at the scene here.
Thank you for having us, Nhlanhla. First of all, condolences to the families and friends and neighbors of the victims of the chemical incident that took place this evening in Boksburg at the Angelo informal settlement. We have received confirmation from the Ekurhuleni Emergency Services and the South African Police Service that 24 people have lost their lives as a result of the chemical incident that took place this evening. What we gather from one of our members who's currently on the ground and some councillors trying to get to the scene is that on Saturday and Sunday, between Saturday and Sunday, suspected illegal miners had stolen a few cylinders of chemicals from a local factory. Then a police search was sent out to the informal settlement where they could not find and locate these chemicals. What we understand from one of our members on the ground is that the illegal miners then opened these cylinders to the atmosphere and to the environment of the surrounding area, which resulted in 24 deaths confirmed. We are truly saddened by what took place as a result of this incident, and it's a total sad catastrophe following what took place just 6 months ago with the explosion tanker incident.
You describe it as a catastrophe, but do we have any more information on the specific gas that leaked from the cylinders? How dangerous is this gas to humans?
So what the preliminary reports, and obviously this has not been confirmed, we're still waiting investigation from the authorities, is that there is a factory in the Boksburg area operating on the work of manure. So that is an agricultural product and chemical that they use, and that the missing chemical was raw material, so it's unprocessed, which obviously is dangerous at this current point in time. And, the suspected theft took place on Saturday and Sunday. And as a result of it being an unprocessed chemical and a raw material, it is obviously dangerous when obviously utilized in an uncontrolled environment, resulting in the deaths of sadly 24 people.
Now, preliminary findings also indicate that this gas leak, as you've rightfully mentioned, could be linked to illegal mining activity in that area. Can your team elaborate a bit further on this? So
the area is currently infested with illegal activities of mining. Our former MMC for Community Safety in the state of Ekurhuleni had a very strong stance, and Operation Buyamthetho was launched by ActionSA in as far as back as December 2021, as soon as we came into administration. And one of our key priorities was to target illegal mining in the area. The Boksburg Germiston area is infested with illegal mining. We do have reports of Lesotho, Mozambique, and Zimbabwean nationals who carry out activities of illegal mining in the area. In some instances, arrests have been made, but because of the poor policing of the SAPS and the judiciary in our country, some of these miners had not been prosecuted as a result of them being undocumented. So although they are arrested, within 24 hours they're let out and they're back to their activities. You would drive through the Germiston CBD or the Boksburg CBD, and residents know this for a matter, that you will find broad daylight illegal miners carrying on with their activities, and unbothered. And our members and residents in the area have informed us that as a result of illegal mining in the area, some factories in the surrounding Boksburgs and Germiston area are suffering with chemical theft because they need some of these chemicals to process some of the raw materials that they find underground. And Ekurhuleni has also experienced in recent weeks tremors and earthquakes, and we suspect, and obviously this is not confirmed, we suspect that it is as a direct result of illegal mining that currently takes place in the eastern area.
I want us to go back to the scene now. How are emergency services dealing with the situation according to the information that you have at your disposal? And of course, speaking specifically to the area that is Angelo informal settlement.
So we have received confirmation that the SAPS is on scene. The Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Department is also on scene. We also have received confirmation that emergency services is also on scene. But our members are concerned and troubled with the fact that the ambulance services are unable to get into the scene. As you can imagine, what the informal settlement looks like currently right now. So healthcare services have not been able to get into the scene. We have been informed that sadly there might be more casualties as a result of this incident taking place between the hours of 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. where some people were found to be dead and confirmed to be dead. It can also happen that some people might have been sleeping and sadly died in their sleep as a result of this. So more bodies, more casualties might just be confirmed with the break of day.
Now, one would anticipate that emergency services or some kind of assistance would also be provided to affected residents or families as well. Do we know if the victims have been identified and if their families have indeed been notified as yet?
Because this incident is taking place at nightfall, families have not yet been identified. In some instances, our member informs me that an entire family has been wiped out. As you can imagine, if a family lives in the same shack and they have been in contact with this chemical, the entire family is likely to have been wiped out. So a trace and track is something that would have to take place with the break of day. We are also trying to get in touch with the MMC for Health and Social Development in the city of Ekurhuleni to try to see how we can assist families to locate their loved ones, and needs be try to make sure that families are relocated to safe houses within the city. The city does offer social services with regards to in instances of disaster, because ActionSA strongly feels that this is now must be declared as an area of disaster, and that families and neighboring shacks in the area must be relocated to safe zones.
What do you know about the status of this particular scene? One would anticipate that maybe an evacuation plan would need to be activated here.
We were of the agreement that needs to take place as soon as possible. One of our colleagues is in contact with the MMC for Health and Social Development. We are also in contact with the MMC for Community Safety, trying to establish what can be done to relocate residents in the area. It does pose as a very dangerous scene right now, as this chemical is a raw material. It is unprocessed, so obviously the sudden death and immediate death of 24 people tells you and indicates that it is a very dangerous substance that's currently in the atmosphere of Angelo. And Angelo is a highly dense informal settlement. I was there myself 2 weeks ago doing some service delivery initiatives in the area. It is highly populated, it's highly dense area, and as you can imagine, it is school holidays right now, so you also have minors in the area. So the main concern right now is to relocate anyone who's in the vicinity of the chemical, and to make sure that people are brought to safety.
Now, we do have it on good authority that the Gauteng Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, is on his way there. But before we possibly speak to him, we also want to find out if there are any ongoing efforts to indeed improve safety and emergency preparedness in informal settlements, considering the recent incidents in Boksburg. I mean, this also comes in light of the previous gas tanker explosion in Boksburg as well. What measures have been taken to indeed enhance coordination between Metro Police and the fire department during such emergency situations there?
Informal settlements are very difficult areas to manage in Ndlandla, as you can appreciate, and one of the things that we have done as ActionSA is to initiate Operation Buyamteto, and that is a multifaceted, multidisciplinary initiative. It looks at housing, it looks at law and order, it looks at energy, it looks at water. Illegal connections is also an issue within that area as well. It also looks at the social well-being of residents and how we can bring back the dignity of residents who find themselves in a desperate situation where they live in an informal settlement and are unable to get services that they need and that they deserve. And we are of the view that the current administration in the state of Ekurhuleni is looking into that. We have also sponsored motions that certainly speaks to some of those programs. We have also been able to, within the budget process that we had over a month ago when the budget was passed, to make sure that the budget illustrates that it is a pro-poor budget. It is meant to uplift people who find themselves in desperate situations. I mean, Ekurhuleni, right in the East End, is an economic hub of our country. The largest port of our country is in Ekurhuleni. We also have a number of industries in the Isando and Spartan area. So it is an economic hub and it attracts people from across all provinces in South Africa and certainly neighboring countries, whether undocumented or documented for that matter. So some of the programs that the city is running, we are confident through the budget that has been recently passed that it will implement programs that will illustrate that reality.
Now, one does appreciate that you may not exactly be a safety expert, but do we know if there have been any discussions or plans to indeed regulate or monitor the use of gas cylinders, especially in informal settlements, to prevent such tragedies from happening?
So after the Boksburg explosion in December, there were conversations with regards to how council functions with its bylaws, specifically on trucks coming through. We have the N17 passing through Brakpan and Springs, which brings in traffic from the Mpumalanga, Eswatini and Mozambique corridor. We also have the N3 running through Germiston right through your Bedfordview and Edenville, which brings in your traffic from your Durban corridor right through into Johannesburg and Pretoria. We also have the N12, which comes from Emalahleni, which brings a lot of coal into Johannesburg and the Eastern and your Midrand areas. So Ekurhuleni does have a number of trucking that comes through, and following the Boksburg explosions, we have set out a review of our bylaws. Certainly, ActionSA has taken that stance of the manner in which we have our bylaws, whether they're relevant. And some of these bylaws go back to as far as 1975, where we find that they're irrelevant to speaking to the realities of today. Some of these bylaws also speak to how the factory industry that we have in the Ekurhuleni area can be better regulated, right? Our factories doing what they're meant to be doing, our bylaws followed, and our laws of the country being followed. So we are, as a party, petitioning council and looking at passing motions which will review some of these bylaws so that they live to the realities of today.
So as we wrap up, Siyanda, we also want to find out from you if what kind of support is ActionSA providing to residents given this tragedy that has occurred? What is your team doing there?
We're currently in the assessment phase of the incident, and as soon as day breaks, we will have more information. As soon as we have information, we'll also be in contact with the Department of Social Development to see that we first and foremost relocate any person that finds themselves in the environment. That's number one. Number two, will also assist any minors who might have lost their parents in such instances, because as you appreciate that there might have been disconnection of families in this regard. We'll also be looking at making sure that the MMC for Health and Social Development sends out a mobile clinic to the area to make sure that people are assessed with in terms of their well-being, and make sure that if they have indeed inhaled this chemical, that they're assisted. We will also be looking at trying to make sure that people do have assistance with regards to food packages if that needs to be made available, and making sure that people are well taken care of during this disaster.
That was Ekurhuleni ActionSA caucus leader, Siyanda Makhado, of course, giving us details of that breaking news story. What we do know so far is that 24 people are confirmed dead following that gas leak near Angelo informal settlement.